we are going to move on to the WNBA. Like I said, lots happening here. As fun as it was talking about the Kardashians, the WNBA playoffs is a loaded topic. So first, we have to shout out the teams that have advanced to the semifinals. In every series, it was a sweep. So shout out to the Women's League. They are crushing it. This has been a historical season so far with tons of new viewership, lots of like an injection of new fans, sold out arenas. So it's been a really great year for the league. These teams that advanced to the semifinals, they did an amazing job. We have the Aces who defeated the Storm. They really didn't have a chance. It wasn't close. They blew them out, I believe, in both games. The Liberty just skated by Atlanta. Again, very easy series for them, clean sweep. And the Minnesota Lynx, they might have retired Diana Taurasi, who's a complete cone on defense and just really is not the player she once was. And it's time for her to hang up her shoes. Let's sunset her career now. And Nafisa Collier, she said it best that, right after game one in the post-game press conference, she said, look, we're looking to end Diana Taurasi's career in the next game. So the Connecticut Sun, they also swept the Indiana Fever. These were just all very exciting series. I want to play some sound bites from Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston after their playoff exit. They made some interesting comments, very positive press conference overall. So I'll play for you what they mentioned. Here's Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, obviously a tough one, especially because we climbed all the way back in and definitely had our opportunities late. And then a few different miscues, and it's back to a 2-possession game, and we couldn't quite get over the hump there. So, like AB said, like it's a good little taste of what's possible for this organization and for this franchise. And there's a lot for us to hold our heads high about. This team won 5 games 2 years ago, so we're a young group, a pretty inexperienced group, but we came together and had a lot of fun playing with one another. And that's sometimes the worst part of it, is like you feel like you're really playing your best basketball and then it has to end. And but like I said, proud of this group, stayed resilient all year and had a lot of fun together.
What I noticed from Caitlin Clark is that it was almost as if like she was disassociating herself from the team. She kept saying this group, and she even mentioned that they only won 5 games 2 years ago. She said, I listened to the whole press conference, and there were some other things that she said. She mentioned that basketball has been her whole life. This past year, she hasn't had much time for her personal life, which is, that makes a lot of sense for her to say that. She went straight from college into the league, which, happens pretty much to every WNBA player. They oftentimes, go straight from college into the league. They're also playing overseas. So they just play basketball in the women's league all year round. They almost never have a break. Aaliyah Boston, she speaks as well. And I felt like she was kind of cleaning up Caitlin Clark's comments a little bit, just because I don't think that them winning 5 games 2 years ago felt the best for her to hear as sitting right next to her. So I'll play for you what Aaliyah Boston mentioned as well.
Yeah, Aaliyah obviously coming in last year, going 13-7 or 13-27, then missing the playoffs, to the differences of this year of kind of going 2020, getting into this playoff push. Just how can you characterize the differences between last year and this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think my rookie season, I think it was a rebuild year. And so when you're looking at a rebuild year, I mean, everyone wants to obviously jump to the championship and bring home a ring and everything. But I think when you look at basketball as a whole, and when you look at where you start to where you are now, like it's about stepping stones. And I think in 2 seasons, we've made the right steps to go forward. And I'm excited for what the future holds, because we won 13 my first season, now 20 this year. Like, we're on the rise. And I think it's important to keep that as the focus, because obviously you're not just going to come in and win a championship. There's so many franchises here that had to build. They had number 1 picks after number 1 picks after number 1 picks, and then they won championships. And I think everyone is just so in the rush for a ring in this moment. And obviously we would all love that, because that's what everyone competes for every single day, especially just being a competitor. But I think just looking at where we are, we're in the right steps.
From our left, Andrew.
Yeah, I felt like Boston, when she spoke, she was responding to a lot of the noise in the WNBA currently. And I thought that that was really interesting, to say the least. You know, when you think about just 2 years ago, Aaliyah Boston wasn't there. So when they won 5 games, they really didn't have any number one picks. They had Kelsey Mitchell. They had Nalissa Smith. Nalissa Smith was a number 2 pick. I forget. I think Kelsey Mitchell went 1, maybe not. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, they won 5 games 2 years ago. Last year, Boston was drafted as the number 1 pick to the Fever. She was also Rookie of the Year, and she more than doubled their wins alongside Kelsey Mitchell last year. So they went from 5 games to winning 13 games. Now, with the addition of Clark this season, they won an additional 7 games. I think Caitlin Clark was a good addition for the team, but they've had to adjust. I dislike the narrative that Caitlin is making her teammates better. She even said it herself in the press conference. She says, I just want to make this team better. I want to make my teammates better. I take issue with that. These women are professional basketball players, just like the NBA players are professionals. I hate narratives that a guy or, a girl can make a player better on their team. Practicing together, these people are pros, okay? They don't just get to the WNBA for no reason, right? They got there because they're really great players, and there's not many teams, so the most elite women are in this league, and those are the facts. So that's part of why I hate that narrative, because these women, they work on their games every day. They make themselves better. You have to show up every day and you have to perform. Nobody can do that for you. Teams get better by practicing together and playing together. It's a collective, right? So collectively you win, collectively you lose. I don't personally think the offense Caitlin is running is making anybody better on her team. If you take a look at Kelsey Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston's stats from last year, they are identical to this year. They didn't do anything more than what they did last year. So the idea that they're making them, that Caitlin is making them better, I have an issue with it. You need to work on your own game before you can make other players on your team better. And I think Caitlin Clark is amazing, but she has some holes in her game that need to be worked on. Caitlin runs, she again, part of why I don't think that the offense she's running is making anybody better is because it's predictable. She hasn't made herself better this season. She looks exactly like she did when she played against South Carolina in this playoff series where teams figured her out. They played really solid defense. She looks just like she looked against South Carolina. Just a little bit better because, Raven Johnson had her completely clamped up. She did not she didn't give her a moment of space. So, Caitlin Clark has been, I think, predictable. It's easy to see what she's going to do. She's going to run down the court full steam, okay, hoping her team can deliver on a high screen so that she can either shoot from the logo or fall left in order to get to her spot to get her shots off. But teams crack the Fever code, especially the Sun, who had an incredible defensive scheme where they didn't even have to double team Caitlin. They got swept off the floor. Indiana Fever was swept off the floor. Okay. And the Sun had control of every game that they played against them. Their bench really beat the Fever with Marina Mabry, Nelson Adota. She came up huge off the bench. You barely hear about her during the regular season. So shout out to the Sun, because I think that they played really great basketball against the Fever. Dewana Bonner, Alyssa Thomas, they really came together as a veteran team. Dejanay Carrington, she had some really great game-changing moments. So, Connecticut Sun played very well. They deserve it. We have to give them credit. But with Indiana Fever exiting, some really unfortunate behavior has come and has been coming from Fever fans. Really, it's taken place all season long, but it's reached, I think, a fever pitch, no pun intended, and a boiling point for the league, for even Caitlin Clark herself, she spoke out as well, as the sports world has just been unraveling over all of the racial tension in the WNBA. And it's not the WNBA, it's the fans just spewing a bunch of hate. They're threatening to boycott the WNBA playoffs. They will not watch because Caitlin Clark is no longer playing. They're calling for players to be suspended. They said that Dejanay Carrington had long nails and she purposely tried to poke Caitlin Clark's eye out. She gave her a black eye. Just all these narratives. Not that these women are just playing basketball. Forget the fact that Dejanay Carrington doesn't have long nails at all. I mean, it's just really, it's horrible. And it is really unfortunate. That's the best. It's disappointing. It's disgusting. Alyssa Thomas, she actually reacts to the racism directly after they eliminated the Fever, and I'll play it for you guys.
I think in my 11-year career, I've never experienced the racial comments from the Indiana Fever fan base. We had her face on a serious matter that happened in this world, and it's unacceptable, honestly. And there's no place for it. And we've been professional throughout the whole entire thing, but I've never been called the things that I've been called on social media, and there's no place for it.
It's a lot of athletes, not just in our league, who get attacked like this. And so I applaud the professionalism. We continue to encourage them to silence the noise, control what they can control. I don't go on social media for that reason, and it's protecting my peace. But I also realize that that's a privilege for me. And so I just encourage everybody to take a step back and think about if it's your sons or your daughters or your nieces or your nephews or your children, for goodness sakes, because if my children were being harassed like this, I'm not sure what I would do. I'm not sure what I would do.
That's a powerful thought.
Really just, I felt for them when they were speaking, because this is something that they've gone through all season long. When Caitlin Clark was being defended, they were calling for these women to basically not play defense. They want to see Caitlin Clark being able to hit her logo threes uncontested. They want to see her winning and performing well, regardless of whether or not her play dictates that. They don't care about that. These particular fans, they don't want to see. They didn't want to see Aaliyah Boston scoring I think one of the first games that they won, Aaliyah Boston was the leading scorer, and Caitlin Clark fans were upset. They said that they didn't want to see that. They only want to see Caitlin. When she wasn't selected for the Olympics, they boycotted the Olympics. I don't really quite understand it. It's worse than the LeBron fandom, quite frankly. And I never thought that I would say that in my life. Some really horrible things happen to not just the Chicago Sky team with Angel Reese. I've already covered that she was getting death threats and, followed home, and AI pictures sent to her family of her naked. It was just, that is really horrible in and of itself, but it continued. So directly after the Fever was eliminated, Dejanay Carrington was threatened as well. She has been harassed in email. Just really horrible, horrible, horrible things, quite frankly. And so we can go ahead. I can show you what she was emailed. Obviously, you guys can see that email that she has to the left. The subject, worthless NB. I hope someone rapes you and cuts your head off. That's an email that she received. And this is her. She's posting it on her in her Instagram story. And, all season long, the WNBA, the commissioner, really thought that this was all much to do about nothing. They refused to address these racist fans, and these very dangerous fans. They refuse to address them. The WNBA commissioner also even mentioned that this was good for the sport, that racism, misogyny, that, you know, homophobia, all these things, that it was good for the sport, that it was bringing attention like Magic and Bird. And I mean, WNBA players were extremely disappointed in the commissioner saying this, and you know, they came out with a statement. But now the WNBA is finally, they are releasing a statement denouncing these fans, because I think the league is ready to revolt. I really believe that if the WNBA doesn't step in, that quite frankly, these players might go through a lockout, that they're willing to potentially strike. The WNBA is a competitive league with some of the most elite athletes in the world. While we welcome a growing fan base, the WNBA will not tolerate racist, derogatory, or threatening comments made about players, teams, and anyone affiliated with the league. League security is actively monitoring threat-related activity and will work directly with teams and arenas to take appropriate measures, to include involving law enforcement as necessary. I mean, it is necessary. These fans, you know, they're not willing to have any positivity. They're not willing to spectate, you know, this league with any kind of decency and respect. So, even Andrea Carter from ESPN, she weighed in as well. And here's what she had to say.
It's heartbreaking that in a time where our league is so exciting, the excitement around the league is at its highest, but the racial slurs and the derogatory comments and the online bullying are also at their worst. And that's the two things that we don't want. We want all the excitement, but it should be based on basketball only. This is a league that has thrived off of women that have competitive spirit and that want to play the game and that love playing the game. But it's also a league that's thrived off of women that truly take pride in inclusivity and diversity and welcoming others and protecting marginalized groups. And so there's no room for racism. There's no room for bullying. There's no room for derogatory comments. We love this sport. These players love to play this sport, and everything should be based about the game. Everything should be based about the game of basketball, because that's what these women love, and that's what all of these women are here for. So the fans that are giving those racial slurs, that are giving those derogatory comments, there's no space for them. As much as we want this league to grow, we will grow slower if it means leaving those fans out of the mix. It's hard.
Andrea Carter, she nailed it. I mean, growing the league is not worth the racism and hate. And I think WNBA players and WNBA fans that have been watching the league since its inception, like I have, you know, they're willing to let the league grow slower if it means removing these fans. What I got out of Andrea Carter's message was that she was willing to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I was talking to Mel from Mantown, and that's what he said. He was like, they're willing to throw the baby out with the bathwater if it means getting rid of these fans. And I couldn't agree with him more. That, I believe, is what, you know, I don't mind. I don't mind not seeing Caitlin Clark anymore in the league. Go start your own league. If you know, let her fans create a MAGA league, and you know, because this is just this kind of negativity and toxicity. It's just horrible, you know. And Caitlin Clark, I just don't think that she subscribes to this at all. I don't think she's welcoming these fans by any means. She has spoken out against them, not very strongly. She hasn't like staunchly pushed back against these fans, but when she's asked about it, she will respond. And I think she says she has the right way of addressing it. She doesn't want to ignite them because she doesn't want the fan base to turn on her, but she also doesn't want to condone bad behavior. So I'll play for you what she had to say as well in response to all of this racism, negativity, death threats. This is what she had to say.
Caitlin, when your head coach came out with a statement today saying she denounces all the racism that some people have felt in this league, players, trolls online, all those things. As one of the biggest stars in this league, what are your thoughts on the things not only your teammates have to endure, but just the entire league? And obviously, you've spoken on this before, but just now that you're coaching your GM, we're talking about it as well.
Yeah, it's definitely upsetting. I don't think nobody in our league should be facing any sort of racism, hurtful, disrespectful, hateful comments and threats. Those aren't fans, those are trolls, and it's a real disservice to the people in our league, the organization, the WNBA. But there are a lot of really good fans, whether they've been fans for 20 plus years or whether they're new fans in our league. I think continuing to uplift this league in a very positive light is the best thing that we can do, because there are so many great players. There's so many great teams. There are so many positive storylines that can be written and celebrated. And for me, that's why I became a fan of this league, is these people were my idols. I grew up wanting to be like them. So I think continuing to uplift and, represent this league in a positive way is the best thing that we can do.
Okay, I have some very, I have some opinions about what she said, but I'm going to skip and play Nick Wright's soundbite, because I thought that it was really interesting what he said. He was super angry about the racism, and he had like a 15-minute rant about what's happening in the WNBA, and I think it's important for us to play this. So, one moment.
And we have now reached a point where, and I apologize because she didn't ask for this, but it is incumbent upon Caitlin herself to be more vocal in shouting this down. When asked, she has given the right answers, and she didn't ask for any of this. She's a kid thrust into superstardom by her own athletic brilliance. And she is not accountable for the actions of her fans. However, this is a massive moment for her sport and her league. And you need people other than the people being victimized by these trash human beings to put up a wall against it. So I think Caitlin needs to be more proactive. I know Kathy Engelbert and the WNBA do. That woman should not have been allowed to remain in the stadium. That is an openly racist, defiant act. Somebody else tweeted, like, I've never been in a WNBA game before where there were MAGA hats. You can wear your MAGA hats. You're making a political statement, no problem. Now, it's an intentionally provocative political statement, just like wearing a Harris Waltz hat to a NASCAR event would be. You know the general demographic of the population you're walking into, but you're doing it to make a statement. No problem. You're trying to get a rise out of people. That's everyone's right. That shit that woman did, that she felt comfortable doing, going, by the way, not in the Indiana Fever Stadium, as an opposing team fan, was the visual representation of what these women in the league have been saying we've been dealing with all year. It's not actual Indiana Fever fans. It's not actual Caitlin Clark fans. It is people that want to see Black women humbled, that are using Caitlin as an avatar for their own perverse hopes and desires. And at this point, there needs to be a full-fronted assault against it. Because this rubber band, man, can only stretch so damn far. And it is putting great Monica McNutt, Andrea Carter, people that are great journalists, great commentators, are consistently put in this awful position where, because the racists have spoiled the well for everyone, I would imagine, I haven't spoken with them and I don't want to speak for them, but I would imagine they feel at times almost an obligation to not only promote other players, but to try to balance the scales on an on-court perspective. When, from an on-court perspective, in my opinion, there's two overwhelming players this year. A'ja Wilson and Caitlin Doesn't mean she's second best player, but it means given her, the story, her being a rookie, her performance.
Oh, brother. So lots to unpack in Nick Wright's commentary. So he was angry. He mentioned something that stuck out to me, which was that he thinks Caitlin needs to denounce these fans louder. And I agree. That's necessary. These fans are not just trolls. Caitlin mentioned that these are not fans, they're trolls. A troll is someone who's like making a joke online. This isn't a joke. Okay? So whoever on her team told her to refer to these people as trolls because that was safer to do than to call them what they are, which is racist. You know, it's upsetting. You know, these are not trolls. They are hateful, ignorant racists that need to be rejected. They are not trolling like this is some kind of joke. They are criminals waiting outside of the Chicago Sky bus, following Angel Reese, stalking her, harassing players. Harassment is a crime. Hate speech, all of that ties into, you know, crimes. They're criminals. This is just like kind of like January 6th all over again. They're ready to storm the Capitol over Caitlin Clark. That's what's about to happen. And it's essentially a huge race war happening right now. And who wants to talk about that? We just want to talk hoops. This is about basketball. You know, and I wanted to applaud Nick Wright because he's denouncing the racism, but at the same time, he then goes on to say that the only two players should be talked about is A'ja Wilson and Caitlin Clark. How do you go from A'ja Wilson to Caitlin Clark? And I get it. She is one of the prolific rookies that we've seen in the history of the sport. She's got a lot of hype. I get it. She is basically the Larry Bird of the WNBA. She is a straight white woman who, you know, can play basketball. And it looks like she's, you know, just basically running circles around these black women that need to be humbled. I can't really get jiggy with that. It's weird. You know, Caitlin Clark is the second player that we should be talking about after A'ja Wilson. Even though Nafisa Collier had an MVP season, she was dominant. She just swept the shit out of the Mercury. She just dropped 42 points. But Caitlin Clark is the one that we should be talking about right now. I don't see how that makes any sense, honestly. And, you know, we do need to talk about Caitlin Clark. Fever made the playoffs. They haven't made the playoffs in years. She's a part of that. She's a part of that success. She's also a part of growing the WNBA exponentially in a matter of months. So there's a lot to celebrate that she's done. There's a whole lot to talk about as far as her talent, shooting and passing ability. She's a fantastic player. But there's several other players in the league to talk about. And Nick Wright, Stephen A. Smith, they were one of the guys, they were the main people saying, hey, you know, embrace Caitlin Clark so that we can talk about these other women. What happened to that? What happened to the narrative of Caitlin's bringing more visibility to other women in the league as well? She might not be the best player on the floor at the moment, but because she's here, these new fans, they get to be introduced to the other women in the league that are also really great. And you have to remember, there's 12 teams in the WNBA. That means that almost every single player in this league is fantastic. They belong there. They have earned their spot on a roster. WNBA is ruthless. They will cut you quick. Deja Fair was the leading NCAA scorer, and she was cut. She didn't even make it, She was cut very early from the Aces. They don't play around in this league. They fire coaches quickly, and they will let go of teammates quick if you're not the player that they need, if you're not fitting in with their team. So, it's just hyper disappointing what's happening right now, but this is not, again, these are not trolls. These are racists. These are dangerous people. They need to be stopped. It needs to stop. Hate speech should not be tolerated. Imagine sweeping the fever and opening your email and seeing that somebody's wishing that you get raped and that your head gets cut off. It's crazy. The league and everybody who is not a victim needs to speak out against it. Not just Black women, not just women from the LGBTQIA community, not just, not just the people who are being victimized by these fans, but it needs to be the people that they think are, their little friend. It needs to be other white people. It needs to be other, men, white men in particular. Like, people need to come out and denounce this behavior and reject these fans. It needs to happen. This needs to stop. Yeah, very, very exhausting topic. WNBA it's exhausting right now to talk about. And obviously you guys saw, those messages, you saw the message from the league. It's just unfortunate. And I'm going to open up the phone lines. I want to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions on this. I am going to read some comments. I know this is a heavy topic, but I had to address it, and trust me, like, I don't want to talk about political issues. I don't want to get into, I don't really want to get into these things. I love sports. I love basketball. And that's what I want to talk about. And the women's league is playing the best basketball right now. They are playing better basketball than the men. Women's college basketball was on fire this past year. They had more ratings than the NBA and the men's NCAA combined. That's how huge, Caitlin Clark and college basketball, women's college basketball was this past year. The WNBA, they have seen a huge injection as well. And I believe that the league is going to continue to grow. And, you can bet on women. You can bet on women's basketball. You can bet on women in sports. So, I think that this upcoming season, the next season is going to be an incredible year, and hopefully it's going to bring some more positivity. Let's see some comments here. Nick Wright hitting on the money. I think so, but something that he, like I said, the idea that Caitlin Clark is the second player that we should be talking about the most, it's annoying. And who is talking about A'ja Wilson? They will spend like 30 seconds, maybe even less, talking about her. Oh, we know A'ja Wilson is great, but let's just dive into talking about Caitlin Clark. That's all they want to talk about is Clark. There's just too much talent in the WNBA to be only focusing on one person. It's okay to talk about her and what she's doing and how successful she's been. I got to call you back, Nino. I don't know what happened.
Your call has been forwarded to voicemail.
I don't know what happened, Nino. You call me back when you get a chance, okay? I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on this topic. Really, I'd love to hear you guys. I'll read some comments while we're waiting for some calls. Hey, T-Bert, welcome back. I can hear you. One moment. Let me just add to this.
Say it again.
Yeah, no, I'm here. Talk to me nice.
All right. Wow. This is a huge onion to peel back. It's
I know.
so multi-layered.
It's a lot. It's crazy because I got a bunch of calls all coming through at the same time, but I want to hear from everybody. So just unpack it, unleash, T-Bert.
All right, I got it. All right, let me open with saying this. It's a shame, right, that we have to talk about this when it comes to the WNBA. I told you I was going to call on the next topic, and I was, but I was a little hesitant because it's just sad that we got to talk about this in 2024,
I
right?
know. It's so sad
And
and
I've
ridiculous.
been with the WNBA since 1997. I'm a diehard, loyal Houston Comet fan, right?
I love the
And
Comets. They need to bring them back.
shout out to Cynthia Cooper, right? The GOAT.
Four straight titles, and they got rid of that team. Like, what kind of league is this?
Well, see, that kind of ties into sort of this topic of the NBA. The reason why they went under because they didn't have money,
Right.
right? So they sold the team. They went under because they didn't have money because they didn't get the injection of wealth that the WNBA is getting now.
Right.
So let's get back to this now, this topic. Nick Wright, I disagree with 99.999% of what that man says 100% of the time. I disagree with his face. I disagree with his stupid hair. I disagree with his stupid eyes. I'm just not, it's not my cup of tea, right? But he hit a lot of good points, and he hit it the way it needed to be hit. And he reiterated something that you said. Caitlin Clark does need to denounce it more audibleized, right?
Yeah.
She could go harder. She could go louder. Yeah, she did denounce it, but, she could do it stronger. But at the same time, right, Caitlin Clark, unfortunately, she, in my age, she is she's a kid to me. But unfortunately, she has to realize with great power comes great responsibility. And she wields great power, whether she wanted it or she didn't want it or not. So she has to be responsible. This is one of those lessons that your parents warn you about. Sometimes you got to grow up before you're grown. And she has to realize the power that she wields, right? And unfortunately, that us in America, we have to put that kind of pressure on that child, right? But she has to realize she is Caitlin Clark, and she wields a lot of power. But I agree with everything you said. It's just I really wanted to just talk about uplifting the WNBA game. I've been waiting for decades for them to get this notoriety. I've been waiting for decades for them to pay these women. I've been waiting for decades for these women to get embraced and loved by the American society like they are now, right? I wanted to talk about the playoffs, how great the actual playoffs were. I wanted to talk about why Indiana lost. Wanted to talk about
it. Let's talk. Like, why do you think that they lost that series?
Well, it's simple. They have a big three, which is they're always going to have the firepower to compete. They can go bucket for bucket with any team in the W. But what they lack is defense. They don't have a defense identity at all.
Caitlin Clark, she disappears on defense. She hides, right?
Right now, Caitlin Clark. Now, I'm a fan. I'm big on her, but I see her deficiencies. And defense, she is absolutely horrible. She loses her woman on her assignment where she left open some baseline threes because she turned her head. She gets backdoored because she doesn't know how to play effective defense. Her footwork is super heavy and slow on defense, right? I'm not picking on her.
No. I mean, they don't defend well. They really don't.
No.
Lexi Hall is a good defender. I think Temi is a good defender at times.
They're not a good team defender because they don't have that dog. See, Aaliyah Boston is a dog on offense, but she's not that dog on defense. They don't have that intimidator. They don't have that lane protector. They just don't have that grit in them. And their head coach does not instill that in them. And also, I watched game one, right? I wanted to see if their coach could make the necessary adjustments to get them back in the game. And I just felt like she didn't do it. So I think they lost for
even that inbound pass that Lexi threw. She shouldn't have been the inbounding. Like
no, she sure shouldn't have.
The play wasn't going to be for Caitlin, so Caitlin should have been inbounding since she's such a great passer, right?
Absolutely, yep.
So
and I wanted to say,
sense.
And so they lost because of all the things that I said. But here's another important factor that, you know, the average fan might not see. That pace that they run is unsustainable.
Yeah, they can't do it all 4 quarters. They can only do it quarters 1 through 3. And then even then, teams have been able to stop that. Come playoff time, that's not going to work. Because they're going to create a strategy for you. And that's what they do.
And it wears their team out by the end of the third to the top of the fourth. That run and shoot
for defense.
No, that Lakers Showtime offense, they just it's not sustainable right now for them. And also, here's the second half of that. When it's not sustainable, they don't get the easy transition buckets. If you look at their half-court offense, they don't have one. They literally have no half-court offense.
No, they have to run full steam, and that's it.
Absolutely. So let me just progress into something else. Also, with the WNBA topic, I wanted to talk about the firing of the Chicago Sky head coach, T. Spoon, right?
Yeah.
That's something.
Let's talk about it.
That's what we should be talking about. We should be uplifting the WNBA, talking about the positive things, the not so positive things. But the racial aspect of it, you know, unfortunately, Dom, you have to address it because it's real and
That's why I'm not even talking about Teaspoon's firing. I had to push that off.
Right,
and
because we gotta
who might be the coach. That'll be a whole nother topic because
all right, so I'll save that.
Be too much.
I'll save that so we can get some other calls at time. So let's get back to the racial thing real quick. It's deplorable, right? It needs to be censored and eradicated, not only out the W, but out of this country. But here's the problem. I'm not the smartest guy in the world, and I'm not the dumbest either, right? This country was founded and built upon racism, bigotry, and slavery, right? And it's still affecting the mindset of some people, a lot of people in this country today. And also, I'm not going to get into the political aspect because this is a sports show. I'm just going to just hint on it. This country is the most separated I've ever seen. It used to be like, you know, in the real racist times in the 60s and 70s, whites versus blacks. Now, you got whites versus whites, whites versus blacks. You got Dems versus Republicans, MAGA versus Republicans, MAGA versus Dems. Like, this country is so divided now, and it has leaked its spoilage over to the W. And CaitlincLark came and Angel Reese came at the most divisive time when the WNBA was dying. And they brought back Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, right? And if you were around to, you know, old enough to watch that, which I was, it was in the 80s, and the NBA was dying. The shows weren't even televised. They were on tape delay. And they got the Great White Hope, and then they got Magic Johnson, right? And what it did was it injected more fans to come, a lot of fake fans too, because it was strictly whites versus blacks, right? But somehow the NBA managed it. They managed it, whatever they did to manage it, and the NBA is thriving. I think that W as a whole, I think they're mismanaging it. I
Oh,
think
for
they're
sure.
mismanaging it.
I mean, look, the
So,
NBA is really managing it. So
right.
the WNBA is just an extension of the NBA. And when you have, I think, a bunch of men truly managing, women, it's just not. Of course, WNBA does not have the right leadership and management. I mean, Kathy
No, they
Engelbert,
don't.
what has she been doing? Look at the
Mm,
deals, look at the low ball deals that they've negotiated for the WNBA given the surge that's happened this year. So, there's a lot to unpack. One of our really great callers, Tony, he actually beeped in. So I'm going to call him back. T-Bird,
mhm.
thank you so much for just being so active, engaging. Your calls are amazing. And I can't wait to hear from you again. So
I got you on the next topic. Talk to you.
thank you so much. All righty.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye. Nino, talk to me nice.
Man, I believe I got an unpopular opinion on this one.
It's okay. Give it. I don't, this is really, and I'm going to say this again for everybody in the room, this is truly a safe space to share different opinions. If I don't agree with you, that's okay.
Well, I'm one of them that believe two things to be right at one time. What I mean is, I think they should have a meeting. Can you hear me pretty good?
I can hear you. Yeah, you're saying that two things can be true. You think that there should be a meeting. We can hear you. I think the sound is really good.
I think it should be a meeting with the ladies and say what's important. How important is the money? Is the bag? We always thought that they wanted the NBA exposure and the NBA bag close. I don't think they're gonna get to. They got a long way to go till they get to the 100 millions, the 50 millions. But I think everybody agrees that it should be a contract talk coming into work. When you see Juju coming, you got Caitlinclark, Asia Wilson, the names, you starting to get the names now. The talent always been there. So Maya Moore, Asia Wilson, she might be close. She might be the best I've seen, but Maya Moore still probably my favorite. And she could play right now and be a superstar when she was in her prime. So let me focus on what I'm trying to say is the bag don't come without no turmoil, without trouble. You're gonna have the bag. This is what the bag comes with. The racist fans, the Caitlinclark fans, the Chicago fans, the Angel Reese fans. This is what the money comes with. Because if you ever, when the last time you been to a concert, a rap concert?
Rap concert? It's been a while that I've been to. I think the last one I went to see like Schoolboy Q.
Schoolboy Q.
Yeah.
Okay.
Years ago.
The most rap concerts. I'm gonna use that for example. A big artist. Do you know most of the fans in the crowd are not black? The ones that do concerts?
Yeah.
Most of them are white.
Right. Yeah.
So the money is gonna bring hate like LeBron James. LeBron James make money just off a lot of his haters and his dollars just in what he's paying. Yeah. So this is what it's sad. Now I would love a perfect world where it's not gonna happen, but it's just not the way they think it's gonna go. It's all gonna be based on just basketball, just talent. It's never gonna happen. You're never gonna get paid.
I know it's not. Listen, I know it's not going to be based on basketball and talent only. Okay, I know that there's going to be other things that we talk about interpersonally, like, this person wasn't getting along with their coach, that, this person had a bad relationship with the organization. Those things are all normal. But I mean, think about the percentage of players in the league that are black. Why do they have to go through things like this?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know why.
I hope someone. So let's just read the subject line of this email. Worthless nigger bitch. I hope someone rapes you and cuts your head off. I don't think LeBron is getting emails like that.
Oh, I guarantee. I guarantee it.
I
I
look,
guarantee it.
even if he is, Dejanay Carrington isn't making the money that you're saying that she should care about. So you have to understand that the rest of the league hasn't caught up to where Caitlin Clark is. She's got the $25 million Nike deal. She's got the endorsement. So does Angel Reese. They're making boatloads of money. These other women, they have to play all year long. They have to do all sorts of things to try to supplement their income. They don't. Do you know what the salary is for a WNBA rookie? Is only $75,000.
75,000. Yeah. I agree with.
Make
See,
way
that's why
more
I
money
agree
than
with.
that. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just a
Me too.
regular person.
I agree. Oh, I'm not saying that it's right. That's what I'm
I
getting.
know you're not saying that it's right. I just don't think that growing the league comes with things like that. And, you know, the women in the league are rejecting these fans. They're saying, hey, I'd rather the league grow slower than to have racism, misogyny, and all these things. Hate, threats, terroristic threats, whatever you want to call them. So I agree with you that, yes, the WNBA needs to make more money. They want more money. They want to see the league grow. But at the end of the day, like, it's not, there needs to be some integrity in that. Not all business is good business. And I know you've heard that expression before. You know,
I agree, but
I have had to say, hey, I'm not willing to work with you. You do not, you know, your morals and values do not align with mine. And, you know, there's a point where there's always a point. That's all that I'm saying. And I think that the WNBA, the players in the league, have also reached that point of saying, hey, we're not going to tolerate this. It's been going on all season long.
I don't think it's gonna stop. That's what I think.
It's
that's what I'm
probably not
trying
going to
to say.
stop, but they
I don't
need
think
to
it's gonna stop.
continue to come out against it. It's not going to stop, but they need to continue to come out against it. You can't just ignore it when it's this blatant. When you have a woman, so the person that Nick Wright was talking about in the soundbite, there was a white woman. She went to the Sun game, and this is played at Connecticut Sun's home. Okay, she came in with a shirt on that said "ban nails," and you know, that was because of the whole Dejanay Carrington supposedly poking out Caitlin Clark's eye. You know, like, it's just the constant hate. It needs to stop, you know, and it's not going to stop, but it at least needs to subside. We're not going to live in a perfect society. I hear you when you're saying that, but we can't just sit back and tolerate things like this. Women getting harassed, stalked, that shouldn't be happening. These women, they don't make enough money for that. Okay, there's not.
But that's what I agree.
They don't
but
make
what
enough
I'm
money.
saying
So if
is,
LeBron got that death threat, imagine that death threat doesn't even probably reach LeBron. He's just hanging out with his billionaire, you know, paychecks, but he's not
okay, let's take LeBron out of it.
about that. I mean, he's come out and said, hey, you know, while you guys are hating on me, you're going to go back to your regular, you know, nothing life, getting up and going to work every day, sad and miserable, while I'm going to be out here enjoying millions of dollars for me and my family, or whatever it is that he said. So
LeBron is maybe not. We'll go back before, because what I'm trying to get to. I'm not, because they're not even going to hear me. What they are doing right now are laying the ground foundation.
Right.
I understand you're exactly right. So that's why I said it need to be a meeting. Are y'all willing to grow this? Because y'all gonna go through some stuff. It's not gonna stop. These fans are crazy. They are. Do you? I know you ever heard the fans talk about playing in Boston.
Look,
it's the same thing in this city.
It's just not the same.
It's
to me, it's an entire fan base injected into this league now, and it's so bad that they're calling for defense to be removed from the league. It's just too much, Nino. It's just kind of like think about what you're saying. Like, okay, well, you know, these things are going to happen, so we should just let it. We can't just let it. You actually have to do something. And I'm not saying that you should do something. I'm not saying that I should do something. But the WNBA, the league, they do need to step in. They need to step in and ensure that these women are safe, that they're playing in a safe environment at the very least. So thank you so much for your call, Nino. I'm going to call Tony back, and we're going to move on to the last topic of the night.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, appreciate it.
Alrighty. Thanks so much.
What's cracking, lacking? Good
Hey,
morning.
Tony. Good morning. How
How
are
you been?
you?
I'm good. I'm
pretty
good.
good too. Talk to me nice. Tell me what you think about any of the topics that we discussed tonight. I know you were trying to call in.
Okay. Um, with regards to Nino and what he said, no disrespect, bro. Poor analogy. Really poor analogy. We're talking about a man that's a billionaire as opposed to a league that doesn't even have $10 million. Okay? Like you said, you got to go overseas to earn a living after you hoist the WNBA championship. However, on certain platforms on YouTube, what do I read? Stop crying, bitch. Stay in the kitchen. It's a man's world, which is so damn disrespectful. Now, let me paint this picture for all these fools out here with this hater nonsense. Let me paint this picture for you, okay? Especially for hating on my era, the 90s, hating on Bill Russell's era, 40s, 50s, 60s, et cetera, et cetera. Imagine this before you guys spew your bullshit. Imagine me and a black man in the late 50s. Every county you go to, you're on the road. But know this, maybe 1 in 100 hotels will allow a black man to stay in their hotel. So what are black athletes and other athletes of color forced to do? When you're on the road, you got to stop by a bed and breakfast, or you got to find the nearest black home who can take your ass in. Gets better. You know what, guys? It's been a long week. We all played hard. Tell you what, why don't we go out and get a couple burgers? Come back. All right, sounds good, guys. Yeah, that's a swell idea. Let's step out. You guys go out for an hour. You let blow off steam. You're not thinking about basketball. You're not thinking about anything. You just want to have a good time with the guys.
Mm-hmm.
However, 10 white guys had a different idea while you guys were out for 2 hours. You come back and, the gracious host, be it the black home that you were staying in or the bed and breakfast, you come back, it's totally destroyed. Not only is it totally destroyed, but everything you own and everything they own happens to be wiped with fecal matter. You got shit wiped all over everything that you own. Worse, what do? They take shit and they smear nigger go home on the walls. Every wall in the residence, nigger go home. Nigger, we don't want you here. Nigger, there's no place for you. Putting all that into context, keep that in mind when that very night you have to go in front of a white arena, 10,000 people who are screaming even more how much they hate your black ass.
Right.
These are the guys who set the precedent for these assholes today to make 500 million and you want to shit on them. You want to sit up here on Facebook, on Instagram, TikTok, and every goddamn platform you can think of. You want to shit on them, say how much they suck, how much they ain't do shit. They were slow, they weren't fast enough, they weren't strong enough. These dudes have laid the foundation for the bullshit that you're spewing today. Getting to the point with Caitlinclark, my issue with the WNBA is 2 things. One, how dismissive they were. Just really dismissive about the racist problem.
Absolutely.
And 2, Caitlinclark, it was bullshit at her press conference. Why? She didn't come out and say it. She didn't have to. But what I heard was, it's not my fucking problem.
Right.
That's what I heard. So
she said it before. She basically said it like that earlier in the season. So she was asked about the same thing and she was just like, basically she has nothing to do with it. Like,
right.
That's pretty much
please
what she's
pardon my
saying.
language. I'm sorry.
look, we have to keep it real here. This space is really for us to be ourselves. So,
Gotcha.
I'm here for it,
I got you. Just I
Thank you so
respect your
much,
show.
Tony.
None of that's
Oh
necessary.
yeah. No, I really appreciate the respect. You show a lot of love, Tony, and I really appreciate your takes and just how you see it through your lens. So thank you so much for sharing. But you're right. You're right about a lot of what you said, and it's truly unfortunate. And
It's very unfortunate.
what I loved about this comment here by Chirac Maybach is Black Trump supporters will defend the emails. They will say it had nothing to do with race. And I mean, we see that a lot, right? Like, yeah, I'm Black, but
Right.
I'm not standing with this because, it's not about race. I don't subscribe to that. I'm with you guys, but I'm not with you on that. And, I can't get jiggy with that. And I always let any Black person that's in my circle know how I feel about the secondhand embarrassment kind of theory that
Right.
they get and have, like, oh, I'm not that kind of Black person. I'm not going to make everything about race. That I don't subscribe to that. Well, when it is about
Right.
race, we have to call it out. That's the thing. So everything
Exactly.
is not about race, but sometimes it is. And in this
Can
case,
I
it is about that. So yeah.
can I piggyback off the Trump take real quick?
Yeah, sure.
For everyone who's listening on this live, this platform, understand this. Spare me the crap about it's not about race this, it's not about race that. Always know this: when you support someone, you inadvertently support every damn thing they do.
Right.
You can sweep it under the rug all you want. It's not about racism this, it's not about racist bullshit. You support them. Man, I don't support that, but you are supporting the cause, you're supporting the purpose. Whether you like it or not, you're still supporting it. Period. End of discussion. Stop it. Help me out here. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I put my hand up.
I mean, look, we have a Black Trump supporter in the audience. He said, I'm a Black Trump supporter. And by the way, guys, no matter what you support, I'm not mad at you. Okay.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I'm a Black
I'm not hating on
Trump
that.
supporter. Not true. At least someone who isn't Black is being promoted as Black, and I'm falling for it like most of us. Okay. Well, look, I don't really have too much of an opinion on that. I mean, I do, but I'll save it for another time, a separate time.
Actually, I got a quick opinion on it.
I know, but I don't really want to I want to really
I got
stick
you to stay away
to
from politics. I got
not even to stay away from politics, but I want to be on topic. Does that make
you.
sense?
There you go. There
Maybe
you go.
one day will come up and we have to talk about that as well. But I
Right.
just, I'm not here to bash, anybody's political beliefs. This is really
Neither am
just
I.
a safe space to chat about sports and the landscape
Right.
surrounding the WNBA right
And
now in the playoffs.
right.
So
And I apologize to the Black Trump supporter. I'm not trying to whistle him. I'm just trying to emphasize the fact that when you support something, you support all of it,
for sure. No,
inadvertently or inadvertently. That's all I'm
that
trying to say.
that is totally fair. And, I totally can hear that. So, Tony, thank you so much for calling in. I do want to
No
talk
problem.
about the
Thank you.
Knicks
Thank you.
because, they had a big trade. So we have a lot to talk about there too. And,
Exactly.
and at
Exactly.
some point we all have to go to sleep. So I have one more
I heard
topic
that.
left and, I'll get you guys out of here. Okay.
Gotcha.
All righty, Tony. Thanks so much for calling in and all of your support. It really just means a lot to me. So thanks again.
Peace. Thank you.
All righty. Bye-bye.